Well, hello everyone. Welcome to Digital DJ Tips for another week and another Tuesday. It is 4 p.m. in London. It's 11 a.m. Eastern Time, and that means Tuesday Tips Live with me, Phil Morse, in the Digital DJ Tips studio. Today we're talking about whether it's time for DJs to ditch MP3s. So why are we talking about that? Well, as of the last couple of weeks, there's been a stream, if you pardon the pun, of music streaming services announcing that they're going to go lossless. So we always had Tidal. That was Tidal's big thing, that you could upgrade your subscription and get a lossless version of it. And we'll talk about what lossless and lossy means in a bit. But now they've been joined by pretty much everyone. Deezer, Spotify, Apple Music. They're all saying, look, Amazon, they're all saying, look, we're doing it now, or we're going to start doing it very soon. So today we're going to look at what the difference between lossless and lossy audio is. And by the way, MP3 is lossy, so that's why they're kind of stepping up to this lossless. We're going to talk about what the difference is, and then we're going to look through kind of the pros and cons and whether now is the time to ditch the MP3. So as ever, this is a live show, so please do use the feedback features you've got on whatever platform you're on. We're live on Twitch, Mixcloud, and Facebook, as well as YouTube. So wherever you are, I can see your comments here. So please do type away, and we will answer your questions and get your opinions on this. And I'm sure there's a lot of opinions on this out there. But for now, I'm going to ditch right over back to what those of you who know us well will know we call the comment cam, which is where I kind of tend to present these things if we're not using the gear over there. And we will talk through what this is all about. So firstly, I want to define what the difference is between lossy and lossless files. So lossy files are your MP3. Apple has a version, it's called the AAC, but they're essentially the same thing. This is where the file size, the music file size, is smaller than a lossless file because it's been compressed. It's had information taken away from it by clever computer algorithms which decide what they think is necessary to stay and what is necessary to go. So you end up with a file that hopefully you can't hear the difference from the original, but it's much, much smaller. And so that's what essentially lossy audio is. Now, lossless audio is different. Lossless audio is WAV or WAV files. Apple has a version as well called AIFF. And these are the audio as it was recorded, but just digitized. And so you're getting the whole audio. And for the purpose of today's conversation, that's as far into it as I'm going to go. So lossy has had stuff taken away from it, and it's been compressed down to make it still sound good, but a lot smaller. Lossless, none of that's happened, but your file's a lot bigger. So should DJs worry about this, especially with everyone seemingly switching to lossless in the music streaming world, which is the music world nowadays, right? Consumers are using it. Should DJs be using it? It's a great question, and one that was asked in our student forum this week, and I do want to spend a bit of time answering it. So let's talk about the advantages of MP3s, of lossy audio, or AACs, the Apple version. So these are small files relatively, so they're easy to send and to receive and to duplicate and to transfer. They sound indistinguishable to most people from lossless files. They can hold things like artwork and metadata, artist title, and lots of other metadata as well, in a way that WAV files can't, although AIFF, Apple's version, actually can. They're pretty universal. Everyone's heard of MP3s. They kicked it all off, right? And they're cheaper to buy than WAVs. So you go to download stores, you'll find that because, well, the stores will tell you it's because of the space and the bandwidth and so on. Well, whatever the reason, they're cheaper to buy, so they'll cost you less money. So what about the advantages of WAVs or WAVs or the Apple version AIFF files? Well, these give you the best sound quality possible. I mean, it has to be because nothing's been taken away from it. They've not been compressed. They're not lossy. They're lossless. They're the best choice if you want to work on the audio. So say you want to not just play the audio, but you want to load it into a DAW, load it into Ableton or whatever, chop it up, stretch it, play with it, use bits, sample it. If you want a version of a track that you can do that with, you're best off with that, because if you add an MP3 into one of those pieces of software like Ableton, it'll just turn it into a WAV anyway. So it's gone from the original music file into a compressed MP3 back into a WAV to be edited. Might as well just buy the original in order to work with it. So if you're going to work with it, produce and stuff, probably best off sticking with WAVs. But they're bigger, and as we know, they don't have the ability to hold metadata and so on. All right, so that's kind of like about the two basic big chunks of audio sources, lossless and lossy. Is it time to switch? This is a big question. And again, we're talking about this because it's looking like in the next, well, few years, it'll be the norm on, certainly there'll be the ability to get these things in the next few months on all streaming services. So the big question is, can you hear the difference? That's got to be the big question. Because if you can hear the difference, then you should use the one that sounds best to you. We are DJs, we should be playing the best audio quality. If you listen to an MP3, and the important thing to mention here is that you've got to get the best quality MP3s, right? So MP3s are 320 kilobits per second, AAC is 256 kilobits per second. If you get the best quality MP3s and AACs, and you can't hear the difference on your headphones, in your house, on big audio systems, everywhere you play, you just cannot hear the difference. There's absolutely no sense not using MP3s. In every other way, they're better. They're smaller, they're easier to trade, they're cheaper, they hold metadata and so on. But if you can hear the difference, then you should use the one that sounds best, because that's your job as a DJ. It's okay to have different types in your collection. You don't have to have all MP3s or all AACs or all WAV files. It's okay to mix and match them. It's also vitally important to remember that you think, oh, I'm gonna have all lossless audio from now on. You can't convert your MP3s or AACs into WAVs and then they're gonna sound better. The audio has already been taken away from them that the algorithms think you don't need to hear, and therefore you can't put that back. So you can convert from WAV to MP3 easily, but not the other way around. So it's crucial that you know that. It's also worth considering the hybrid formats. Now these are formats like FLAC, or the Apple version, ALAC or ALAC, and these are lossless audio. So they sound exactly like the original, nothing's been taken away, but they've been compressed. How do they do that? Well, clever algorithms look for places where there's no music. So why have all those kind of like 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0s in the digital file? They just take that away. So they kind of clean them up, a bit like a producer might clean up a kick drum by squashing it, taking away the frequencies that aren't needed. But all the audio that's there is still there. So FLAC and ALAC files are a good hybrid choice if you want to go down a route that not many people take. The problem with FLAC is that iTunes doesn't play them, so you can't, if you're an iTunes or an Apple Music user, you can't use them there, and they're just a bit less common. So there's just the technical possibility you're gonna run into issues with them. But there's a nice hybrid there for you. Before we go on to the debate about this, before we take our questions from everyone who's tuning in live, I just want to share with you a comment from Apple's head of music, and this was today. And Apple's head of music said something quite interesting. He said he can't tell the difference with lossless audio. Now, this is a man who's just launched lossless audio on his own platform. This is from my friend Declan over at DJ Mag. And he says he can't tell the difference. This is what he says. The reality of lossless is if you take 100 people and you take a stereo song in lossless and you take a song that's been in Apple Music that's compressed, which is the equivalent of an MP3 here. I don't know if it's 99 or 98 of that 100, can't tell the difference. I can't tell personally. I do blind tests with the team all the time. I cannot tell. And then he goes on to say the problem with lossless is that you can tell someone, oh, you're listening to a lossless song, and they tell you, oh, wow, that's incredible. They're just saying it because you told them it's lossless and it sounds like the right thing to say, but you just can't tell. So this is the head of Apple Music who has just launched a lossless service. And I think he sums up there clearly the debate here because, for instance, I cannot tell the difference. So I'm perfectly happy on every system I've ever played on, from the biggest systems down to my home headphones, to listen to and use good quality 320 MP3s. To me, frankly, if they've been well produced and well mastered, 320 MP3 WAV doesn't make a blind bit of difference. But if you can hear the difference, and if you think you can, as I say, that's different. So is it time to upgrade? It's still up to you, but I don't think the fact that they're starting to offer what is in the words of the Apple guy, a marketing play, not a true customer play, in offering lossless audio. I don't think that's a reason to change now. So I don't think anything's changed really. We're back to, can you hear it? So that's kind of the backstory here. I want to spend the rest of our time together today talking to you who are tuning in on all channels, and we will take some viewpoints and we'll debate and discuss this. So let's go. Let's start off with a couple of hellos. Hi to Mixmaster G over there in Holland, Dat Boy, Deacon Triumphant, GM, Xcoza, Ian Bean, DJ LV2D, all our regulars are here, Ashley, and so on. Welcome everyone. And let's get started with what you've got to say about this. Technobeat says it's a really interesting topic here. I'm going to talk about this for a bit. Cool. So it's good to know. So I want to know what you think. What do you think about this idea? Where I live, says Christopher, access to streaming services is severely limited, hence MP3s. Yeah, well, fair enough, but it's not really the subject today, Christopher. Although, if we were talking about streaming services versus local music, which we might do again soon, I'm sure we'd have an equal number of interesting opinions. Mark says storage is getting cheaper and bigger, so this is like your hard drive. But unless you're playing on some high-end system, I don't see the point of using lossless. You know, to me, the fact that storage is getting cheaper and bigger doesn't really take away all of the advantages of MP3s. I'm always moving my music collection onto a pen drive or onto another computer or onto my iPad from my computer to test another piece of equipment or to go away on holiday and take it with me. And I like the fact that MP3s move a lot quicker than WAVs. I don't care how much storage I've got. It's just the fact that they're smaller. And just because you've got the storage doesn't mean you want to fill it up with music that's bigger than you need without any reason. Again, it comes down to whether you can hear it. Thank you very much, Mark, for your comment there. So Mixmaster G says most streaming services use AAC, the Apple version of MP3, which sounds better at the same bit rates. Yes, thank you for sharing that, Mixmaster G. And so 70% of the local music, oh no, that's good point, person over on Facebook, but not relevant to the debate here, I don't think. On YouTube, Ray, I've been researching this since last week. I'm glad to hear your thoughts on it. So how about record pools, says Christian? Are they switching to lossless audio? Good question. I think most are still using MP3, although some do have the option for WAVs as well. Ian says, I can't see any reason for lossless for DJing. Yeah, sure, I'd always prefer to go lossless for my home hi-fi setup, but it's not worth using lossless files at a gig or club. It's a good point because, you know, a lot of DJs are very purist about, hey, I want the best sound out of the best system. But unless you're sat in a deadened room in the perfect stereo position, you know, with really high-end audio, you know, I think the chances of you hearing the difference are extremely, extremely slim. You're 99% of club systems and the environment you're in where there's all background noise and you know, no one's... You know, people have got so much else going on that I just don't think anyone's tuning in that closely to whether they're listening to a 320 MP3 or a WAV. I kind of agree with you there, Ian. It does make sense. Someone on Facebook is saying once it's compressed, you can never get that information back, such as ripping from YouTube or indeed any service online, and that is true. That's one of the arguments against it, especially because YouTube, you'd be lucky to get something as good quality as a decent 320 MP3. Eves says AIFF all the way, so you're a lossless person, but you do like the fact that you've got ID3 as support. In other words, metadata, tags, artist, title, artwork, and so on. Thank you for that. DJ Fuzz, I think the setting in which DJs play make it pointless for insistence on lossless audio. Most of the audiences won't be able to tell the difference at those volumes or with club systems. Thank you for that. That's exactly the point I was making a second ago as well. Mr. Mays says lossless is better for DJs, better audio quality and better for adding effects without any audio loss. So thank you for that angle there as well. Mixmaster G is pointing out what I didn't want to get into when I said I think I've given enough technical details, but we'll just go there anyway for a second. Not all MP3s are created equal. Not only does bitrate and sample frequency matter, but also the actual encoder algorithm that produces the MP3 can make all the difference. So thank you for that, Mixmaster G. A lot of you are confusing what we're talking about here today. When I say should we ditch the MP3s, you're saying should we go streaming. That's not what we're talking about. We're saying should we ditch the MP3s to move up to lossless audio. So sorry if there's a bit of confusion in my title there, but that's what we're talking about today. I run a mobile disco. MP3 is fine for me. I'm not a producer, says Jerry. A lot of you are asking questions which are not related to today's topic, and that's absolutely fine. Just come back on Thursday at the same time for Thursday Q&A live. Sherwin says, I keep telling the girls that size doesn't matter. So there we go. So Mixmaster G is kind of underlining what I was saying there. Lossless for production in a DAW, lossy, high quality is fine for DJ needs. Scott says, if the price reduce, why not switch? To be fair, the prices of good storage with lots of memory is great at the moment. Well, yes, let's say that they all cost the same. you're still having to download and keep bigger files, which means transfer rates are slower, and you will from now on need, let's say like you end up with, a good example is when SSD drives came out, right? So we went from having normal spinning hard drives with God knows how much capacity to suddenly having tiny 256 gig 256 gig SSD drives, because they were quiet and had no moving parts, and they were great for DJs. But all of a sudden we had to squeeze all our collection onto this much smaller drive. Who knows what's around the corner? Who knows if we can't fit everything onto a chip that's embedded in our finger, but suddenly it's only got 256 again. And then we're happy for our MP3s again. I'm being a bit facetious, but you get the point. Why have stuff that's bigger than needed, right? It doesn't matter what the technology allows us to do. Why have stuff that's bigger than needed? You want to see the clip of some of the PAs I have to plug into. Some of them won't have been switched on for 15 months, says Mick. I think we're talking about here the idea that PA systems you DJ through really can't tell the difference between these things. What about Amazon MP3s? They're VBR and 256. That could be a problem on CDJs because of the VBR. I think historically it has been, sorry, the VBR. Historically it has been, so that's variable bit rate. But nowadays I don't think that's an issue, to be honest. And I suspect a VBR 256 sounds as good as a constant bit rate 320 to most ears. Just a guess, not something I've ever tested. Most won't and don't tell the difference, says Ian, chatting away to Nigel there in the comments on YouTube. Hello to one of our Twitch people. I always like to give a bit of love to people on Twitch because we do neglect you a little bit. So hello to DJ Vinyl Touch 87 and DJ List 2 over there on Twitch. We love you. So it's good to see you're all debating this among each other now. That's exactly what I want to see. I'll set the debate off and you can chat away among yourselves. Falcon says you definitely can tell the difference, but you have to have the hearing for it. Well, I'm a guy who's middle-aged now. Maybe that's true. Maybe I haven't got the hearing for it anymore. DJ Royalty says, no, the industry is making it harder on the artists to actually make money. Everyone is making money off the music except the artists. So there's an anti-establishment viewpoint there. Don't give the industry more money for lossless, you're saying. So this is a good question, and I don't know the answer to it, from DJ Vinyl Touch 87. I wonder if lossless works better for things like stems, real-time stems extraction. And I don't know the answer to that. So if anyone does have any ideas on that over on Twitch, let us know, or let us know anywhere, and I'll read it out on the live stream. Jorge on our Facebook page says, I've a lot of FLAC tracks on my playlist. I've never had problems with those files. For me, it's also good to work with file. I've got a Windows system. So there's the thumbs up for the FLAC middle ground, the hybrid, like lossless but compressed files. Amar says on Twitch, the bad thing with streaming services is that they will apply normalization algorithms to adapt the loudness of the music to their standards. In the process, the music might be butchered and heavily altered than the original file uploaded by the artist. This is frankly much worse than compression. Well, actually, there is a movement among the streaming services to request bigger dynamics from the artist and to impose them on files as well. So that kind of works both ways. But yes, Amar, I see what you're saying. I guess the more middle people you put between the music and the people listening to it, the more chances that people can mess with it. So it's a good point, that. A lot of these streaming services saying they're now marking tracks as lossless or master are not actually lossless, says Barry. Well, I don't have any other information on that, so I take them at their word. So someone on Facebook says, once you get over the age of 30, I bet it would be 100 out of 100 people who wouldn't be able to tell. I'm in that group, I have to say. So Nigel says, I feel it depends on track to track, as MP3s encoders usually cut high frequencies, and I often feel that that's missing the crispness in the high frequencies, so thank you for that. Skip Trip says, 320 kilobits per second is my last resort when the song isn't available on lossless. Stuart's giving another vote there for FLAC files. If you've just joined us, by the way, we are talking about whether DJs should ditch MP3s and lossless audio and move up to using lossy audio, move up to using uncompressed lossless files, because they are being offered now by all the streaming services. And if you have just joined us, maybe it's because you weren't subscribed. Listen, you've got to go here, he says, and it's not coming up today. Oh, look, it's shrunk. it's shrunk. Anyway, it's doing the job. You've got to go there and subscribe, because that means that it will tell you when we go live on these things. But anyway, that's what we're talking about here on Digital DJ Tips today. We'll take a few more comments from you guys and girls. Shall I just get that in the right place now? Because if I forget, you know what will happen. Next time, I'll just do it again, won't I? So you can tell we're live. So you wouldn't get service like this on a pre-recorded video, would you? Let's be honest. Right, there we go. That's fixed now for next time. Let's get rid of it. See, yeah, it's working, isn't it? Looks good. Right, what we really want is unmixed down stems files, says Ronald. Yeah, we can dream, eh, Ronald? They did try it, but it didn't really catch on with Traktor's stem format. Someone on Facebook, I can use WAV or MP3, but music streaming requires a stable and fast internet connection. From where I am, stable and fast internet connection is not very good. Yeah, so this is a confusion between whether you stream MP3s or stream WAVs. Sorry, I probably introduced that with the title of today's live stream, but Dale says, I think I remember on your Laid Back Luke Digital DJ Tips course, him saying he was comfortable playing MP3s. He is indeed comfortable playing MP3s. One or two more comments here then. Big Joe Joyce 93 says, hi Phil, WAV or FLAC? I find some of my WAV files don't show up or aren't supported on CDJs. I've never heard of that before, and they should be, because CDJs have supported WAVs till literally back in the day. So I don't really know the answer to that. If anyone does, over on YouTube. Joachim says, I definitely can hear the difference. One or two more then before we disappear, because most people are kind of repeating the stuff we've spoken about already, and mainly people are saying you can or you can't hear the difference between the two. You know, if you can hear the difference between the two, you're going to prefer the one that sounds better, which is brilliant. You know, that's what I started with. If you think you've got a file that's a better sound quality than another, why wouldn't you play it as a DJ? Mr. Mays, as much as I love WAV audio quality, I don't think I'm suddenly going to start buying them. It's been fine for the last few years. Well, you could, of course, because we did say earlier, you know, there's nothing wrong with mixing and matching files in your sets. So personally, I would lean towards lossless for music production, but stick with MP3s for DJing, says DJ Ginormous. And I think we're probably going to leave it there, unless I can see anything. Let's end with Adrian's comment, because it's a nice one. Not everybody has the funds or the desire to move on and keep chasing technology. Isn't it all about the music, as people keep saying? So thank you for that. Ending on a little bit of philosophy there, and I think we can all agree, one thing we can all agree on is that it is all about the music. So that's been Tuesday Tips Live today. Should you ditch the MP3s and up your standards and go to lossless audio, because consumer music is going there now with the streaming services all switching to it. So should DJs switch to it as well? Thank you for joining me, and I'll be back on Thursday at the same time, when it's Thursday Q&A Live, when you can ask all the questions you want to ask that haven't been covered here. If you've enjoyed this today, we would appreciate it if you click share. And if you are not a subscriber, we'd appreciate it if you do this on whichever channel you're on. On Facebook, it involves liking the page and clicking show posts first, and then we can tell you when we go live with more live Q&As and shows just like this one. Till next time then, get good, get out there, make the moments, and I'll see you again for another Tuesday Tips Live at the same time next week. Bye-bye.